Erev Shabbos, Parshas Ekev. It's the second week of the 7 weeks of Nechama after Tisha B'Av. So the question that I would like to address today is, what is the Nechama we're supposed to be seeing from the Parsha and the Haftarah this week? And how is that supposed to help us, particularly in light of Tisha B'Av, where we're remembering and feeling the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash? So there's an interesting pattern that we see in the Parsha and echoed in the Haftarah. And I would like to share with you an insight in that pattern, and I would like to follow it up with a fascinating story from a Mordechai Gifter. We find in the Parsha a pattern where it talks about Klal Yisrael encountering a difficulty that is beyond their ability to overcome. The solution is that Hashem is going to solve it for them, and then the warning is not to forget Hashem. So, for example, we find in the beginning of the parasha, it says, as you're looking to enter Eretz Yisrael, and you look and you see the many nations there, and you'll say, it's too hard, it's too difficult, they are greater than I am. How are we able to conquer them and inherit the land? And Hashem says, don't be afraid of them. The same miracles I did for the earlier generation of taking Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim, I will continue to do for you as you go into Eretz Yisrael. However, he says at the end, don't fall into the trap and fall into their avodah. Don't follow their ways. Stay true to the Derech Hashem. And then it continues to talk about once you come into Eretz Yisrael and you've inherited the land, and you will have Eretz Chito Sora V'Gef and Huseino, and all of the great abundance that there is, and all of the brachas that there are in Eretz Yisrael. The pasuk then warns again: don't forget Hashem, your God, and don't say the famous words that I was able to accomplish. Don't think that don't say that you accomplished it, that it was our ability to do that, because if so, then again, we will be sent out just like the Goyim that were sent out of Eretz Yisrael. We too will follow those ways. The same thing with the Bais Meraglim. Hashem would take them out of Mitzrayim. There were all the miracles. But then when it came to entering Mitzrayim, they started to add in their own contribution. They wanted the Meraglim, and of course that too led to disaster. And that tells us the following thought. It is Hashem that accomplishes things in this world. We might need to do our hishtadlus, and we might need to do many things, but we have to always remember that it's Hashem that's making the things happen, that's doing the accomplishment. We need to conquer the land. Hashem is going to do it for us, and we need to continue to attribute that to Hashem and remember that it's from Hashem. We can understand this perhaps with the following insight. Man is limited in his abilities. Man has limited resources. And therefore, if we follow the laws of nature, what the accomplishment that can come out of man is going to be limited. There's a finite source, there's going to be a finite accomplishment. But if we recognize that the source is infinite, that the source of what we're going to be able to accomplish is from a Borei Olam, so then the source is infinite, and therefore the accomplishment is going to be much more than we're able to do on our own. To conquer the nations is beyond our ability. Hashem will do that. To take us out of Mitzrayim is beyond our ability. Hashem will be able to do that. To be able to inherit the land and to sustain and live off the land is really beyond man's ability, and Hashem will do that. We need to remember that it comes from Hashem. So long as we remember that the source is infinite, it's from Hashem, we can continue to reap the benefits of the infinite accomplishments that come from an infinite source. But once we start attributing it to ourselves, and we say, we are disconnected from the infinite source, and therefore the accomplishments also cease to exist, because we have disconnected it from the source. And the nechama that says to us is that now we are at a state where we're remembering that we had nothing. There's the Churban. We're back to ground zero. We look to Hashem for our salvation. We look to Hashem to be able to be our continued parnasa, or whatever it is we're looking for. That feeling that we have now, that we recognize and remember when we had nothing, and that we remember that it all comes from Hashem, we need to maintain that feeling as we go forward. And even when we see successes in Mitzvah Hashem, and we are able to have tremendous abundance, we need to maintain that same feeling that we had when we have nothing. If we maintain that feeling, and we maintain that recognition, and we're that awareness that it's all from Hashem, we should be able to all be Zochim Mitzvah Hashem, to continue to have tremendous abundance that are much beyond our abilities to be able to achieve. Many years ago, and as the Cleveland Yeshiva was still growing, and they needed to be able to pay all of their staff, and they were out of money. The situation was dire, and they decided that they need to do an emergency fundraising campaign. And in order to be successful, they decided one of the Rosh Yeshivas need to go and do the campaign themselves, to go travel and to ask people for money, to do the parlor meetings, to be able to fundraise this significant amount of money that they needed at that time. So, I don't remember which Rosh Yeshiva, but one of the other Rosh Yeshivas went, and they traveled across America. And he did 2 weeks of traveling and fundraising, and it was completely unsuccessful, barely covering the costs of all of the travel. The Yeshiva came back somewhat deflated and somewhat disappointed. The next day, sitting in the office, he hears the phone ring, and the secretary answers the phone and becomes very excited. And after a brief conversation, comes running into the Yeshiva and says, "I can't imagine what happened. Someone just called and said that they are a lawyer for a certain person who left over in their will the exact amount of money that they were looking for in order to be able to pay all of the salaries. The exact amount of money that Rosh Yeshiva was looking to fundraise all came the following day." When Rav Mordechai Gifter heard about this story, he quickly went to that Rosh Yeshiva and he said to him, "Don't be miyayish, don't feel bad. It was for sure due to your ishtadlus, your efforts that you went and you fundraised. Hashem rewarded your ishtadlus, and therefore the money came from a separate source. But Hashem gave you a special gift. Not only was your ishtadlus successful, but Hashem wanted you to realize that it's only ishtadlus, and that the true source is from Hashem, and therefore He made the solution come from a separate source, so that you won't think that you're a great fundraiser, and you'll be able to continue to learn Torah, but know that your ishtadlus was successful, but you'll be able to also remember that it came from Hashem." So Hashem gave you a double gift. He answered your ishtadlus with success, and He also let you know that it always comes from Hashem. That is the nechama that we have now. The feeling we have now as we look to Hashem, and we know now that it has to come from Hashem because we have nothing. We're after the Churban. We remember that time. And just like that was clear then that we need Hashem's help, so too we need to keep that feeling alive even when we have great abundance and great success. And remember that it all comes from Hashem, and then in Mitzvah Hashem we continue to stay connected to the infinite source, and we can be zoicha to infinite success.